to see you again. I'm so excited to talk to you about these tiny houses and just kind of like where you're at with the whole project and where your passion lies and all of those great things. Would you like to tell me a little bit about yourself, your background?
Yeah, sure. How are you? And it's so good to talk to you again. I'm glad that we are able to connect. This has been amazing. Tiny homes or having housing for artists is something that's been a passion for me. I have even given at my house, in my own home, I started a museum called the Family Arts Museum. The Family Arts Museum is family as fine art, home as curated space, community as gallery. And it's about really taking the practice of home, community, and family as a fine art. And one part of that practice is including how we live in community and how we support each other in community. So I literally declared my own home a museum, my own practice as a mother, as a sister, as a daughter, as a friend, as a community member, as an art practice, and have taken in artists to have residence in my home. And usually the residency is anywhere from 3 months to about a year and a half. And so where an artist is able to stay, they're able to usually be able to, if they're sometimes they're housing insecure or they may live in another city but want to do a project in DC. That's been the case so far for two of the artists who are housing insecure and in between places looking for other places. And so they stayed either one artist for about 3 months and another one for 6 months. And then another artist is out of Chicago, but really wanted to do a project in DC. So I have 3 properties in DC, and then with my family own some properties in Maryland, and have always just wanted to explore what's the possibility of building tiny homes and building artist communities, supporting artists, and then supporting community with artists having housing and having an affordable way to live, work, and create there.
I love that. That's such a beautiful vision.
Thank
It's
you.
amazing that you did that with your house, you know? I mean, it's like a resource and you just turned it into this amazing, amazing new thing that the world can really appreciate. Yeah, awesome.
And it
Uh,
was a benefit to us as well. Everyone, benefits. My daughter and I, we live here, and she's just had an amazing level of wonderful exposure to the creativity of these people who have become family, and have been able to really, just do amazing work. I've been quite proud of just the capacity for us to be in community together.
right. Yeah. Artists bring a whole nother level, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And especially when we view the relationship as an art practice and that we're really looking at it like how do we use this material of community, family, and love? And like, how do we make that really into a creative piece that we may look back on years, decades from now with really fond memories? And how does that also inform our other practices?
Right.
Mhm.
Um, so then why specifically tiny houses? Why not put condos on your property or why not, build another house on your property? Why
Yeah.
specifically tiny houses? What's the interest around tiny houses?
Couple of interests in it. I already have a house that's on, so one property already has a house on it. And so I would want to be able to see that as, a space that we're all able to gather in. Two, you can serve more people with tiny homes. And so with the property that may be able to get, um, condos or whatever that may require a developer and require this whole other process, a lot of times the economics of that process pushes you out of the ability to offer affordable housing. And the property that I have in the 3 properties in DC are zoned residential and commercial. 2 blocks from a metro station, I get offers out the wazoo to buy the property or work with a developer to make condos. But the reality of it is that it would just price me out. I'd either have to just sell or I'd be pretty priced out. And so tiny homes have, from what I'm learning, offer this interesting opportunity for the kind of housing that's necessary especially when we're dealing with transitional housing or housing that is, where people are moving in and out of it. Pardon me. It offers a certain flexibility to it. And also, now that I'm learning about it, it's not something that I have to wait years and years to figure out. It's something that I could see, happening in the next 18 to 24 months, at least be able to get, one or two and find out about the process.
Right. Yeah, it's
one more thing about that. There's housing. There's also another property that I'm really interested in buying, because I'm like, if I could have access to this property and be able to put more tiny homes on it, and it's this neighborhood is just running out of affordable space, and it is having a drain on how this community is served, who gets to stay here, and who gets to provide, who gets to contribute to the community. So that's also another thing to consider. If you're buying a property, it's also feasible to buy a property and be able to add tiny homes to it versus build it out. It's just way priced out to build out.
Yeah. And then of course, like what you said, on top of that, zoning and permitting, that takes a while, and everything just takes longer if you're building a traditional house,
It does.
So then my last question is, why specifically BIPOC stock? Like, is it the artsy nature of the tiny houses? I don't know.
It is one of those. You said, first of all, why BIPOC what?
Why BIPOC stock? Why this project? Like, why this project? Like, why are you interested in this specific project?
I am interested in BIPOC stock because of the community around the project. I think that's an integral part to create if I am going to do tiny homes, if this is something that, is going to happen and I'm already in community, I don't see the need to do anything else outside of community. I thrive in that space. And then also to do that with people of color, primarily Black people that are around the country, and people who understand the importance of this kind of work. That's why, and then on top of that, the fancy and the ability to be creative, of course, is, sprinkles on a cake that already has like cherries and icing and all kind of yummy stuff to it, but we'll take sprinkles. We'll definitely take. We'll take it.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm loving the process. I'm loving learning about it. I really have enjoyed, being a part of the meetings and being able to just, know that I have people that I can ask and have models of how you guys are doing it, and it can be done this way. I mean, it's just made something that seemed like, 5 to 7 years out. Like, oh, well, maybe we might be able to do this. Well. So it's given a level, it's added, it's made that big dream like closer. And who would ever deny a bigger dream being closer?
Right. I love it. Yeah. I love it. That's the perfect way to end. Unless there's other things that you would like to add or speak on.
The only other thing is that I'm really excited about the many ways that there are opportunities to grow. I'm excited about the conversations about generational wealth, about funding, and creating access to opportunities within our communities, understanding of information, the sharing of information, and really like just having a chance to think bigger, wider, and in more ways about how to do this and not go at it alone. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go far, and you want to have fun along the way, and that's not part of the proverb, but I'm adding it, but go with other people.
I love it.
Yeah. You want to have some fun along the way, have somebody hold the babies, maybe somebody else cooks. You got people you can just enjoy things with. It's just a better journey when you go together. So
Yeah,
I'm
I love
excited
it.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I love it too. It's just I love all of the ideas and all of the engagement and the interaction and folks just being really excited. It's nice to see that um there can be inspiration in such a time as this, right? That
Hmm.
we can find hope in different ways, different places that seem like it would be hard to find, right?
Yeah.
So it's very inspiring to me because it's all been very inspiring.
It's so inspiring. And when I look at some of the issues that are happening, what I have learned, and particularly in the past few years, but I think parenting also taught me this, we've been sold this idea that the issues are separate issues and that there are these kind of siloed issues when they're not. So, as we have last year, we saw the movement for Black Lives. We saw so many things that were happening that initiated so many things. And it's like sometimes you're like, well, what can I do? How can I be a part of it? And at the surface, it looks like there's, maybe 3 to 7 ways that you could do something, right? But actually, wherever you are, anything that's improving in like your relationship with self, your relationship to community, your relationship to the earth is going to be an improvement. And housing is a huge part of that. And so I feel like this is also not only teaching my daughter about, finances, economics, land, community, but it's also teaching about acts, revolutionary acts, and of different forms of protests and different forms of evolution, and also there's nothing like revolution or evolution that is proactive and not only reactive. And there's elements of this that are quite proactive that I'm excited about.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. That was beautifully said. Oh my gosh.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
As you were speaking, I was just thinking about breaking generational curses, and I think that poverty and being stuck in this hamster wheel, especially when people are describing artists, right? Like that we're supposed to be starving, right? And we're supposed to be um kind of making art for other people and creating culture for other people, or coexisting outside of a culture while we create our own culture, which to me none of that seems very feasible, especially if you come from the belief that, which I do, I believe that everybody's an artist. It's just that everybody has not found their passion, they haven't found their talent, they haven't found what really excites them. And if they have found it, some people are so afraid to do it because we live in such a capitalist society, and when you're struggling with housing, that makes a whole nother barrier around you know really investing in your culture and your community in a way that not only strengthens you but strengthens your community, as opposed to taking away from you, right? Like taking your
Yep.
time, taking your energy, taking your money, all of that. So for me, that's, yeah, this whole idea of generational curses. Like, can we think about this a little bit differently? And how can
Yeah.
we actually build wealth in a way that is proactive? So that's kind of where the proactive piece comes from, is how can we take what seems so hopeless and flip it on its head and start with hope?
I've been like really, really, I have like about 40 days out before my birthday. And so I've been into this like deep self-discovery, self-improvement. Like this time of the year is always that time of the year that I'm like, how do I want to walk into my next birthday? Like this is like when I'm doing serious deep work. And of course, there's that great quote from Will Smith, where he's like, one block at a time, one brick at a time. Like every day you just lay this other brick. And then Tony Robbins has a great quote where he says that, oh my goodness, I had it right on the tip of my tongue. But I'll come back to that. But there's also, I was listening to this guy, Omar, who has this great podcast. And he really just talks about like, taking massive acts of action, like, just like where you just do things. And I think like it's a time to really say, hey, I'm going to, Tony Robinson's quote is that everything has the meaning you assign it, right? So, and I'm butchering that quote, but he's like, anything that happens, depending on how you tell the narrative, is really the meaning that assigns it. So I just have no interest in telling this narrative from like a downtrodden, we are, you know, like we just can't do it. It's like, hey, even at the bottom, we're finding beauty, we're finding opportunity, and we're making trampolines and jumping everybody up, right? So it's like tiny homes is one of those things that's like, whoa, you know, it's a possibility to do that in so many ways, however you want to do it. And so as I learn more, and I'm really excited to seeing like how what I learn comes into my own practice and what, you know, what that means for how I show up. But the opportunity to just, you know, lay one more brick, you know, understand it and assign meaning that is really empowering for us is what I see
Yeah.
opportunities. Mhm.
Yeah. And I love that. I love that lay one brick. And mine is one day at a time, you know, like that's my like one brick, lay one brick.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of folks don't really understand is that things don't just happen in a vacuum, right? The only reason that this project has been able to like to not only take off but last this long is because community has joined, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people want to see this happen. And so for me, that's also really inspiring because I find that sometimes like there's a couple consultants that have worked with us and they've lost hope in their everyday trodden days, right? And
Mhm.
just coming to these meetings and just participating in this project has actually shifted their mindset and their frame of reference in terms of what is hopeful, right? So if we unplug from the television or we unplug from the screens and we attend things where folks are trying to do things and
Mhm.
make radical move, paradigm shift kind of move, right? When you start investing or surrounding yourself with these kinds of stories and these kinds of opportunities, hope is a part of it, right? And
Yep.
inspiration is a part of it. And so I'm also finding that the folks that are joining are just, I mean, they're shifting their mindset around what is possible. And to me, that in itself is beautiful, even if we, you know, don't build one tiny home, you know, but
Yeah.
the goal is to build multiple, you know, I'd love
Mhm.
to like replicate it all over the nation, if not worldwide, you know, the mailman just came.
Oh,
Um,
it's okay. And I'm
yeah,
so glad you mentioned that because that's another part of why I want to participate in this community. I've been excited about it is because I could comfortably bring my fear and my anxieties about the process into the room. I mean, I'm saying this now, like about feeling more confident about it and feeling more open about it. But this is not a project that I can say, you know, 30 to 45 days ago before we actually got a chance to talk that I could even think could possibly be on my radar, like, you know, before 5 years from now. You know, I was like, I just don't even know where to start. I don't know what to ask. I don't know who to ask. I want to, you know, do this in a way that's equitable. And I want to do this with, you know, in community. And I just was like, I don't even have the capacity to even think about this. And coming to the meetings and being able to like look at it, it's like, oh, wow, this possible? This is possible, right? And so, you know, and I still come into it with my fears and anxieties, you know, and if somebody's talking to me like about big projects on it, I'm like, no, I'm not ready to have that conversation. Can we just get through one house and maybe a property where we can add some things? I'm so like, wow. I'm like, I just got to the point where I think this is believable. Like maybe, you know, 2 weeks ago, I can't think about anything bigger than that right now. And I don't have to because being in community, it's already bigger than me, right? So I don't have to say, oh, now we've got to do it for the whole city. No, like I can actually do one, I can do it right here. I could do it right. And let the satisfaction of just that small completion lead into whatever else opens up and my brain can actually take it. So but being able to just bring my fear in the room and be like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. has been the only reason. Well, no, you're fantastic. And Quest is like my sister. So there are other reasons, but it's been the reason that I've stayed. It's been like, oh, okay, I'll come back. I don't have to know what I'm doing.
Yeah, you do. Because we're all learning together, which is so beautiful, right? And that's like so powerful for me, because I tell you, man, my fear was huge, huge, until I got the very first grant, which was a private donation, because I
Wow.
sat my friend down and was like, look, what do you think about this idea? And everybody else had told me, Carol, that's a crazy idea. You'll never be able to do it, and then finally I actually told the right person,
Yeah.
who happened to be a really good friend of mine, who happened to be like, here, I'm going to give you some money to get this started,
Right.
And I was in shock. I was like, oh, wow, this is now a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I've been scared every step of the way, I've just been scared every step of the way, but I just feel really pulled. As long as folks want to see it happen, I want to
Right.
see it happen, because
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm just doing this for me. It's for everybody. It's for the folks that want to see it happen and want to make it happen. And also not only want to make it happen, but have a bigger vision for the lives of many, right? Like,
Right.
that to me is even more powerful than my
Mhm.
fear.
Yeah.
Fear can get me sometimes.
Oh my God. Every one of us is, doing an amazing job managing our mind right now.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's so many reasons and so many ways that you could lose it to fear, to anxiety, to whatever. And this is going back to the point about community. Like, your mind needs community. I swear to God.
Yes.
You need, if you don't just do it for that thing in your head, your mind, it needs to be like, okay, I'm crazy. Let me just get to the call. You need just one assignment. Get to the call and then allow the information to give your mind something else to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that. And sometimes you just need to see other people's success or their failures or their work ethic or their push for it. You just need to see it. And also you need to see patience with themselves, with you. And something about, the process, I just feel like is going to be just as rewarding as the day that I flick a light on that tiny house in my backyard. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, this process, I want it to be just as wonderful and rich as that moment, you know? So that's exciting. So with fear and everything, I mean, it's not a real story if you feel like you can't, like, not feeling like you can do it is actually really a part of the adventure.
Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm
Well,
like,
you need a protagonist.
I like a good story. I'm like, I like a good
You need a
story.
protagonist.
So,
Yeah.
I'm here for a good story. I had property. I didn't think I could. It seemed impossible. It was 7 to 10 years down the road. And would you look at this? Like, that's a great story. You know what I'm saying? And it's happening in Texas. It's happening in Seattle. It's happening here. It's happening there. I'm here for a good story.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's
Awesome.
make some real good stories.
Let's do that.
Yes.
I love it. Well, that's all I have for you today.